welcome to another episode of I Demand a Homestead. My name is Amanda, and today what we're going to be talking about is how to get your tomato plants started right. Okay, so tomatoes are one of the things that a lot of kind of beginning gardeners start with, but they're not always the easiest thing to keep growing well. So we're going to talk about what you need to get these guys planted and set up for success. So today, obviously what you need is your tomato plants. You also need, well, I'm going to suggest that you can use some black landscaping cloth. This is basically to cover the ground to prevent weeds from growing. It also helps warm up the soil, which is a great thing for tomatoes. And then it also kind of keeps the fungus that's in the soil from splashing up onto the leaves. And that causes a lot of tomato blight, which is the blight of a lot of tomato growers. Okay, so I'm going to be using this year. The nice part about this is it does allow the rain to come through, which is what we want. So I don't like the black plastic stuff, right? So the cloth is good, and it's also reusable. So it is an environmentally friendly solution as well. So we're going to use our black landscaping cloth. We're also going to use these, I can pull one out. We're going to use these garden staples to hold down the landscaping cloth. Okay, so we're going to use that. We're going to have a garden trowel to plant our tomatoes. And then finally, we're going to have a utility knife to help cut the length of landscaping cloth and also to cut holes in it, or X's really, in order for us to plant our tomatoes in. Okay, so you can roll the cloth out a couple of weeks before you plant your tomatoes. I did not do this, but let's pretend that I did, and you can kind of watch me while I do that. So I have now laid out my black cloth, and I've stapled it down so that it's not going to blow away. I might get some more staples because there are some gaps here. And what I've done is I've taken all my tomato plants in their pots and I've laid them out where I want them to go. All right, so it's very important that when you plant tomatoes that you have them well spaced apart. Obviously so that way they can get light, but also so that there can be airflow between the plants, so that way you won't get that fungus disease, that blight coming. Okay, so this black cloth should help, but the space between them so that they can get light and so that they can get airflow will also help. All right, so now we are going to plant one of our tomatoes. So the first thing we're going to do with this plant is we're going to take it out of its pot. So I'm just going to kind of squeeze it a little bit so that way I don't have to pull very hard on the stem. Okay. If this were a lot of roots around this root ball, I would loosen this up, but it's actually not that much root there. So what I'm going to do too is I'm going to pinch off these bottom leaves. Okay. The reason why that is I want to plant it really deep, and so that way all along this stem will actually grow roots. And that will allow it to suck up more moisture and tolerate kind of heat and drought better. And then you get a stronger plant, and then a stronger plant gives you more tomatoes. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna plant this. So I'm gonna cut an X, hopefully, in here, so that way I can dig a hole. Okay. And I want to make it fairly neat so that I can reuse this next year. Hopefully. That's the plan. I like the idea of reusing it. Okay, so I've created my little hole here. And now I'm going to dig a really deep hole in here to plant this tomato quite deeply. Okay, so that's deep enough. Now I'm going to put my plant inside the hole. It's going to go all the way down there, way deeper than what you normally would. Okay, and then we're going to pack that dirt around it up to the level of the soil. Try not to make too much of a mess. And we're going to kind of give it a little push down just to put the roots in contact with the soil. I'm going to bring those little flaps back over here. Okay, so now it's planted. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to put a tomato cage around it, because tomatoes tend to kind of get really tall, and a lot of them are what they call indeterminate, where they flop around, so they need some support. Okay. Oop, I've hit a rock, of course. All right, that should do it. Okay, and again, I'm trying not to damage this landscape cloth too much because I want to use it again next year. The other thing you can do if you don't want to dig a hole that deep, you can actually apparently plant them on their side, like dig a trench and plant them on their side. But then I don't like doing that just because I'm worried I'm going to hit the stem with the tomato cage when I put it around there. So I just dig a really deep hole. So I mean, it's a little bit more work, but I think in the end you get a better plant. All right, so I'm going to do the rest of them, and then I will come back and show you what it looks like. Okay, and here they are. They're all done. You can see my Brussels sprouts in the foreground there. I also incidentally put cages around my Brussels sprouts because they get really tall, and that keeps them off the ground. Keeping plants off the ground leads to less fungal diseases, which is what we want. Okay, so there you go. Some of them are not planted as deep as I might have liked because we got a lot of rocks in our soil, so I do the best I can. So thank you for joining me on another episode of I Demand a Homestead. If you have any questions about tomatoes or anything else about gardening or whatever, please post them in the comment section. If you like this video, please feel free to press the subscribe button, and we'll be posting more videos about gardening throughout the season. All right, have a great day. Goodbye.